For me personally, I feel an EV needs around 400 miles of range to really make me happy. Well, this car has a WLTP range of over 400 miles. That is amazing, and even better, it's the entry point into the Polestar lineup. And supposedly, because it's rear-wheel drive, it's more fun to drive than other Polestar 2s. So let's find out in this video if that's true. I can tell you that this is a lot more fun to drive than the other car, especially when accelerating. It feels a lot more like you're being pushed from the back of the car, which you didn't get on any of the other Polestar models. But does it live up to the range? And what other cool features are on this car? Well, let's look. First thing that I really like is this smart zone, and this says mid-range radar, which comes out of the front there, and then we've got a camera as well for the camera system. Fantastically clever to integrate it into the design at the front rather than either trying to hide it or disguise it as something else down here like other car companies might do. I like that a lot. One thing I'm not a fan of is this white color, because it gets dirty really easily, and you can see it attracts the insects a lot. Now we're inside the car, let's talk about number 2 on my list, and that is this beautiful panoramic roof. Now, panoramic roofs are not new, but Polestar does it slightly differently, and they actually project the Polestar logo onto the roof, and I'll show you a close-up of that so you can see it, which is very nice. So I love that. And now let's look at the cool features on the infotainment system, because Android Automotive gives us some fun things. Number 3 on my cool features is this, the air quality app. Look at that. How cool is that? It shows me the PM 2.5 inside. It actually shows me a breakdown of the trees and their pollen. Very high alder, moderate ash, moderate birch. The rest have got none. No grass. No weeds today anyway. And outside pollutants. Uh-oh, we've got moderate NO2. That's nitrogen dioxide. Not great. Low carbon monoxide though. Very clever that it does that, and it breaks it down and you can see exactly what's going on. I love that. Next is the range assistant, which shows you the best range you're going to get and the least range you're likely to get, and it changes depending on how you're driving. Now, I've currently got 69% of battery left, and I've still got 230 miles of range. Just consider that. 69%, 230 miles. That is pretty impressive. And if I tap on it here, I can see my dynamic range and my instant consumption over the last period of time and the last distance of driving. And I can change history to 40 miles to 100 miles. Very clever. I like that. Other cars have similar systems, but this is very easy to do on this car. And of course, we have a performance app with a big G meter in the middle there. Let's talk specs and pricing for this car. This is the single motor long range model, or the long range single motor, depending on which way around you want to say it. And this is a WLTP range of between 379 miles to 409 miles. That is a lot. That is the ideal range for me personally for an EV. Of course, WLTP doesn't mean you actually get that range, so we'll find out how much this car actually gives in this video. What about performance of this car? It does 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds. It's got 220 kilowatts of power, which is 295 horsepower, and around 330 newton meters of torque. And Polestar puts the power on the side of the car, which makes it very easy to see. Now, there are other models of the Polestar 2, including an all-wheel drive version, and you can see the information. I'll put it up on the screen here for you. This, however, has amazing power and amazing range. It's very hard to argue that you need a more powerful or all-wheel drive Polestar 2. Now, I have done a review of the really powerful over 400 horsepower Polestar, and I loved it, but this certainly does not feel slow, and we'll test the 0 to 60 time later in this video. So why have Polestar made a rear-wheel drive version of the car? Well, other than the fact that single motor is really good for long range, and it has got incredible long range, it's for fun, because rear-wheel drive cars are supposedly more fun. I can hear the comments being typed right now saying, what are you talking about? Probably BMW drivers. When you accelerate away from traffic lights or from any lights or from police lights, no, I'm not doing that, I'm joking. But when you accelerate, you can feel the back squat down to push you forward. Even though this car is not as fast as the all-wheel drive version of the Polestar 2, and it has less power, it feels, honestly, almost faster. Now, it isn't actually faster because that's got like double the power, but it feels very, very similar and very different, and that's a really good thing. So Polestar have actually made a fun feeling car, a lot like Tesla have done with their rear-wheel drive cars as well. So that's an interesting thing, and other manufacturers are doing it as well. For example, MG with the MG S5, which runs on a platform which is rear-wheel drive only. So rear-wheel drive is a lot of fun to drive, so that's why they've done this. On the side of the car you can see information about it. Polestar 2, 82 kilowatt hour battery, 220 kilowatts. I already mentioned the power, 295 horsepower. About 75 kilowatt hours of the battery are actually usable on this car. This car starts at around £48,000. As spec, this car is £51,000. This as the entry point though, I think is really compelling. And the more and more I talk about this car and want to take it for a drive, again, I argue that if you're going to get a Polestar 2, you might as well get one of these. This car has 19-inch wheels, but 20 inches are available. They are really big, chunky tires. That's one thing you'll notice on the Polestar 2. The other thing you'll notice is it is a bit jacked up. It's a bit higher. It is a saloon design, but it's a tiny bit higher, which means it rides a bit better on the road, which is good, especially when you're going over uneven British roads. I guess anywhere in the world where there's uneven roads, it's a really, really good thing to have. At the back here, the Polestar 2 still has the same design with that big light bar across the back, which looks very fetching. How about space in the rear? Well, you can kick open the back here, and we've got 407 litres of space in the back of the Polestar 2, and it's quite versatile. We've got a really big space down here. I mean, I think you probably kidnap somebody and put them in there. That's pretty impressive. It's like very, very nice down here. So much room. Hooks, tether points, the 12-volt charger in the back here. We've got a netting here, and we do have a pass-through as well, so you can put skis or something in the back if you want to do that. Nice and spacious. It is a hatchback design. It does have a high load though here, so you have to lift stuff up, which might be a bit challenging depending on how heavy the stuff is you're carrying, but if it's just shopping, no problems at all. There's also a divider here where you can divide stuff up, which is great. And look at all the space under there. This car can charge on AC or 11 kilowatt free phase, and it can also do DC up to 205 kilowatts, and it can do 10 to 80% in 28 minutes on a fast charger. Very flexible, but no button to open and close the lid. And that's never been the case, but it makes it look cooler when you're trying to make a video. In the rear of the Polestar 2, it's kind of mixed, I'll be honest. We've got this lovely spacious roof, panoramic roof, which is really beautiful. It even has a Polestar logo illuminated at the front, which is a very cool feature. It's got this nice netting at the back here. We've got heated seats. We've got two USB type Cs, although there's no 12-volt in this car. We've got nicely designed feeling vents at the back here. These seats are quite slim. I'm 1.78 meters, so I've got that much space in front of my knees, this much space above my head, although because it slopes down at the back, I am feeling it slightly here, and if I was taller, I might have trouble back here. We do have a pass-through on here, so we can put stuff through from the back and two cup holders. It's a bit dark with this color interior back here, and it's a tiny bit, it feels a tiny bit constricted at the back. Still very comfortable, and again, not going to be a problem, but it's just interesting that the design of this car, how it kind of comes down at the back, does obviously have an effect on the space you have in the rear. But I would very happily take a long journey in the back of this car. Now, one thing I do really like on this car, which I have to give Polestar a lot of credit for, and this will seem really silly, but I don't think it is, it's these doors. Most doors on cars are very basic now. And what I mean by that is car manufacturers have hard plastic or maybe some soft plastic, and that's it. And the whole rest of the car door feels basically like it's an exercise in being cheap. That's not the case here. Yes, we have some soft-ish touch plastic. It's a bit hard, but it's like got this interesting texture. And then underneath it, we actually have a material on this door, and then the handle area has a leather feel to it as well. The only hard plastic is at the bottom here, but what it means is the quality at the back of this car, especially on the doors and at the front, feels a lot better than other comparable cars, which impresses me a lot. Let's talk interior and technology inside this Polestar 2. Now, this unashamedly runs Android Automotive. It is skinned by Polestar to make it look its own way, but it is Android. It has Android Auto and it has Apple CarPlay, although not wireless. It does have to be connected with USB. It also has some very cool apps on here, which I'll show you in a second. It feels like you're in a bit of a cockpit because you've got this interior here. This center console kind of comes up and kind of puts you in your own area. And it feels very like you're safe and secure in your own little cocoon. You've got some interesting design choices, however, with the cup holders. Yes, there's a cup holder here, but if you put a drink in there, then where do you put your arm? Right, and there's another cup holder here, which, I mean, then what do you do? And this goes back quite far. I suppose you could sit like this and drive, maybe, I don't know. That's a strange choice. However, if you're not resting your arm there, then it doesn't matter. I would actually say, to be fair to Polestar, because of the way this interior is designed, I don't actually want to rest my arm here. I kind of feel like it naturally kind of sits here. These seats are comfortable. They're adjustable as well. They feel nice too. And the materials and quality in here are really nice too. We've got a wooden effect here on the dashboard material there. And a, again, softish to hardish plastic with a softish finish to it. We've got a Harman Kardon sound system. And it just feels really nice quality in here. We've got the big display. I love having an actual gear stick, even though it's just going between reverse, park and drive. I love that because cars are just missing that. And we've got an actual volume knob here to pause and play music and turn the volume up and down. We've got a wireless charger right down here as well. And then we've got two USB Type-Cs, which are hidden by a little plastic cover, very Tesla-like, so that you can have a nice, easy way of connecting everything up. There is nothing else in here except for the cup holder. There are no 12-volt chargers in the front of the car, which is a slight shame because when I got in, I wanted to plug in my speed camera detector, my radar detector made by Road Angel, and I couldn't do it because I didn't have a 12-volt, so I had to get a USB adapter to do it. So, I mean, it's easy to fix, but just something I noticed. Let's check out this infotainment system now. This infotainment system runs on Android Automotive and it has all the Google apps. Now we've got some very cool extra apps which I've shown you in the cool features section, air quality, performance, but we've also got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay is wired, we've got YouTube Music, and if I tap on the app button here, I can see the apps I can get. We've got Google built in so I can ask it questions. For example, okay Google, how far is it to drive to Sweden?
You are 1,267 miles away from Sweden by car.
So if we want to visit Polestar, that's where we can go to get to there. We've got Spotify, we've got Pocket Casts. I can also hit the Play Store button and it can bring up all the apps I can download. And I can also watch videos while I'm parked, such as YouTube. I can watch myself, and you should watch me too on Tech in the Car, and give me a like and subscribe for more on the channel. But we've also got other apps I can get to as well, like Prime Video, and we've got a lot of variety here, which is really, really good. And then if you go into the car settings, you have the ability to choose a steering feel, light, standard, firm. I prefer light. You can put it into sport mode and have the ESC off. And we can also have the one pedal drive on, off, low or standard, creep on or off if you want it to hold at traffic lights when you stop. When we go to assist, you can easily choose what you want here. And in charge, you can see your charge limits and levels and set the schedule. And if we go to more, we can see all the options here. You can also power off the car directly through there. We've also got a fantastic 360 camera system, which lets me see all around the car, including different angles like this, left and right. Very nice, very easy to use. And lastly, if you want to check your settings, it's Google, you can do that. And you can use Waze or Prime Video, or even look at your messages on the car. Very easy and simple to use system. And I like how you've got the manual here as well, so you can easily see what's going on inside the car or outside the car. And if there are any issues, you can figure them out for yourself. I like that a lot. And if we check out the digital driver's display, we can see Google Maps, and we can adjust how it shows you on here, different views you have, whether we can have just a big view or we can have the view with the maps. Not many settings you can change on here, but it shows all the information and it makes it really easy to navigate, which is very, very important when you want to get to places. Do you notice the rear wheel drive when driving normally like this? No, not really, it's just like any other car. But one thing you do notice is the steering feel. You can go between light, standard, and firm, which I'm doing now, and I really do not like the firm. It's way too much effort to steer. This car is not light, so having heavy steering when the car isn't light isn't the nicest feeling. Let's have it on light steering and let's make the car feel nimble and fun to drive and not like you're turning something really heavy. That's a strange decision, but you have the option, which is really good. We also have the sport mode. We can turn off the ESC, which is really, really good, and I like that. It gives us a lot of flexibility. And will it help with our 0 to 60 times? Let's see in a little bit. Let's test the 0 to 60 time. Go, 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 go. And if we got 295 horsepower, so it should be able to do it pretty quickly, shouldn't it? 6.71 seconds. That's pretty much bang on with what Polestar says the car can do 0 to 60 in. Let's try that again in sport mode. Let's go, 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 go. Are we going to be any faster this time? How quickly can we get to 60? That was 4.5 seconds, so that was a lot quicker. 4.5 seconds, 0 to 60. That was a big improvement in the time. And the reason it was a lot faster, because I have it in sport mode with the ESC off. Now, when you slow down and put your foot down, you feel it squatting down from the back and pushing you forward. So that makes a difference. And it's very noticeable, and it makes it a lot more fun to drive. And overall, that new dynamic way of driving feels better. But where this car really shines is not necessarily how sporty it feels, but its range. And its range has been impressing me a lot. If we go into the apps and we look at our range assistant, we can see how we're doing. And right now, because I've been driving and testing the 0 to 60 time, we've had high consumption driving style. But right now it's telling me that if I continue driving in this way, I'll have 190 miles of range left. Now, if you're offering me 190 miles of range with 67% of battery, that's pretty good. I'm not going to ever be complaining about that. But then if I drive a bit more reserved, the car will give me a higher range, up to 220 miles from that 67% battery. It's really, really efficient, this car. Now, the most I've seen in driving has been around 310 to 320 miles when it was fully charged as 100%. I haven't seen 400, but real world numbers of over 300 miles are amazing. And if you drove really, really conservatively and really, really watching your usage, I'm sure you would get that 400 miles. But I think the key thing here is you don't need to drive like that to get some of the best range out of any other car that you can get that's an EV. And that is very, very impressive from Polestar. So more fun to drive, yes, mainly when accelerating away because you feel it from the rear, but fantastic range. And I think those things make this a standout entry point for Polestar. Polestar are already doing amazing things. They started from a really expensive, exclusive version of a hybrid, and now they're kings of EVs, in my opinion. They make fantastic cars with the latest technology, and this car has got better range than the rest of the models at Polestar 2, and because it's rear-wheel drive, it's more fun. If Polestar continue doing this, then you're going to see a lot more Polestars on the road. And if you want to see other fun cars which are EVs, watch the videos here and here.